thank you for joining us on our Valentine's Day edition of our podcast of Mike Hagan and the Strength Team and Women of Strength.
Women of Strength.
Women of Strength. And so for those people who are joining in, who are new watchers, of course, every Monday there's a new Strength Team podcast that is released. And then on Friday, they have the Women of Strength that is released.
Yeah.
And also, we shared with people that first-time watchers, maybe the first time to check out our podcast, that if you go through iTunes, you go to Mike Hagan Strength Team on iTunes, you can prescribe to that, or Women of Strength, you can prescribe through Ann's website. Subscribe, prescribe.
Yeah. Same thing.
Subscribe,
though.
You can get it. It's free.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's free.
And so, but anyway, this is a real special podcast. So actually, the two podcasts are going to be one. So the one that's going to be released on Friday is the same thing that we're going to release on Monday, because we're kind of mixing podcasts with Women of Strength. And
but why are we mixing it?
We're mixing it because there's something very special that happened. I'm just going to say this, 28 years ago, February 14th of 1981, yeah. I was a junior playing college football here at the University of Montana. And that's when I asked Ann to marry me on that day.
Special.
It was a very special day.
Yeah, it was.
And so,
yeah,
and one of the things that, and I was thinking about just in, we've been married for going on 28 years. We have 3 beautiful children. We're very, very proud of our kids. Yeah. We have 9 grandkids, and we found out now soon to have 10. And so do we look like we're old enough to be grandparents? Anyway, we are.
Don't answer that question.
But it's really, it's awesome. And I was even thinking about something that Ann and I are doing together after we watched the Fireproof movie, which was very inspirational to us after being married that long. And then we're doing the little Love Dare book together. I think we're we're on day 6.
Day 6.
Day 6, and we read. It's really cool. We read it every day, and we really feel like, even though that mechanically we know a lot of things to do in marriage, because we love each other and our lifestyles, and we meet each other's needs, that sometimes, and even friends that we've known who've just grown apart. And one of the things that in my heart, and I just say this to you, Annie, is that my heart and my desire is that I want to, the first 25 years, I want the next 25 years to even be better.
Amen.
And when I first got married, I was like an irresponsible kid, just got saved. I don't know if you, and we're probably going to share part of our testimony, because when we met each other, and I'm going to let Ann kind of share, because she really does the detailed version of it. And so I can tell it in a minute, and Ann can really, she does a lot better job of telling the process of how we met each other, we dated each other, and then we committed our lives to Christ, and then we got married, and then we had a family, and then we played pro football. Now we, was with a power team for 14 years, and now going on 9 years with a strength team.
Wow. It's
unbelievable to see how fast time goes by. But so many good things, and I thought back to, because we always kind of celebrate Valentine's Day being something special. And so, what does it mean to you, honey, Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day? Mm-hmm. Well, after this many years together, Valentine's Day probably doesn't mean to me what it does to most people. Most people now, they think of it as the one time to go buy the chocolates or to go buy the flowers, that bigger, better flowers. It's the one time to really show your affection. And through the years, being married to Mike and the things that we have gone through, not just in ministry, but in our own personal relationships and our own personal lives and with children and what they've gone through, and then them getting married, 2 of our sons, or both of our sons going to war. What we celebrate is it isn't just once a year. It's got to be every day. And that's the thing that I've been able to learn. Now, it doesn't come right away. It takes years. Where you get to this place in your marriage where you realize that it is every day. And Valentine's Day, to me, just is more of a reinforcement of what you and I go through every day of the year. Every day of the year, we want to love each other, and we go through struggles. just like you do. And when you go coming up Valentine's Day, you're thinking, okay, I need to go buy the flowers. Or if you're a girl, you're thinking, I hope he buys me flowers. I'm not going to say anything and see if he remembers. Yeah, I've done it too. And the thing is, though, is God wants to get us to the point, because he loves us so much, that we realize every day is Valentine's Day in his love and walking through life with him in our hearts. He wants us to recognize that his love for us should give us enough love,
Right.
enough inspiration that we can love our spouse every day, not just once a year. And I know you love your husband, I know you love your wife every day, but we don't always show it. But we really try and make up for that whole year on one day, on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And the thing,
Now, but here's what I want to get to is that something real special happened. We've been dating. I was playing college football at the University of Montana. My wife was doing acting. She was in drama at the University of Montana. I met her. And so we didn't date that long. We dated, we actually dated.
3 months.
Not even that, I don't think.
It was short.
I think it was like a month and a half.
Yeah.
And so on Valentine's Day of February 14th, 1981, right here in Missoula, Montana, little apartments down by the university, you know, I went in and I asked Ann to marry me.
Now you have to remember, neither one of us were Christians at
We
this
didn't
time.
know the Lord.
It wasn't spirit-led. We hadn't prayed or fasted or nothing
No,
like that.
I
It was
loved
just
her.
like,
I
it was
thought
all
she was
flesh.
a
All
good-looking
flesh.
chick, so, you know.
Hey, well, when we
It was
connected,
hot.
you know, I fell in love with him the moment. It was love at first sight.
Yes, absolutely.
Same with you, I think. And so God is so faithful. He knows our lives. And just like they say, don't be unequally yoked, be equally yoked. Both of us coming into it as sinners, we were pretty equally yoked.
Yeah.
So the neat thing
Well,
us,
we didn't know the Lord, but here's the deal.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it. So that was on Valentine's Day. 3 days later, on the 17th of February, then Ann calls me, and I'm at the university and I'm doing something. I'm getting ready for football practice or something where I was getting ready, and all of a sudden, she goes, "Listen, I haven't been feeling very good, and I got some bad news for you."
well, I don't think I said bad news.
Well, you did, I think, at first. She goes, it could be good news, it
I
could
have
be bad
news.
news. She goes, "I got news for you, news for you."
Oh.
She goes, "I'm pregnant." And I was like, I was speechless. I was like, oh, no.
He was as white as a sheet of paper.
Yes. And so
The cool thing was,
I thought, okay, now instead of getting married in December,
yeah.
we got to get married in June because
Pretty
this
quick.
baby's going to be due in October.
But
And
the cool thing was,
and there was never in our heart, there was never anything like, well, you know, I mean, there was never, it was like, man, I love
I
that.
did say to you, I said to you, do you want this baby? And you said
Absolutely.
yes. And I said,
It's our
good,
son,
because
Michael.
even if you don't,
Schmirky
I'm
Woods.
keeping this baby. Did you
Yeah.
get that?
Yeah.
Even if you don't, I'm keeping this baby.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. And I always tell our oldest son, Michael, I said, the first person, Michael, you led to the Lord was your parents.
That's right.
Because I got pregnant, Mike said to me, well, I know you're supposed to get married in a church.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any
That's how it
religious
all
upbringing.
began. That's how it all began
I was
right
like,
here.
you know, justice
And
of the peace, whatever. I didn't know where to go. And so we went on a hunt looking for a church to marry us. And neither one of us knew any denomination to look for. We didn't know where to go. We just started going to churches. And we went to, here in Missoula, a couple churches that would not marry us because I was pregnant. And I was just so smart. I'd go in there and tell them, yeah, we're looking for someone to marry us. And
My
I'm
wife
pregnant.
just- whatever's
Why
on her
did I
mind, she'll
keep
just
my
say
mouth
it.
shut about it?
Yeah.
It's like, but
Yeah.
then I remember even one man of God of a church here.
Well, I mean, we don't.
he
wanna-
wouldn't even
no,
he wouldn't even
that's
talk to me.
good. Yeah.
I was just like, but
He
but
might
the
have had a
cool,
bad day.
Well, he
Anyway.
might have, but he did. But the thing that was so cool about the Lord is my personality was like, well, fine, I'll find somebody to marry us. This isn't going to turn me away. And a lot of people get turned away from the church, get a bad taste in their mouth, thinking because we're being judged and we're being looked down on. And I was a sinner. I needed a savior.
Well,
What a
here's
great
the thing. We
opportunity.
didn't know that, and so what
Well,
happened? I can make
yeah.
a long story short.
We
I'm
didn't
just
know
tell you. 'Cause we want to keep this podcast to 20 minutes. But what happened is we ended up meeting a guy, Steve Valentine,
Yes.
who was our father in the faith, and Steve, had a pastor of a church. They were sent out from Alaska. Had been here for 3 years at that time in 1981,
Missoula Community Chapel.
He was an athlete. He was in the 1972 Olympics. I said, that'd be cool. Let's,
No.
Steve.
You didn't even meet him.
No, I know. Ann went, long story.
I went to
a
the
lot of
service.
details. A lot of details.
Okay, we don't need to get into all that.
But then
Okay.
but here's the thing. Ann went to church, loved the church. So anyway, I came back, and they're finishing up on a 3-part message of the lust of the flesh, fornication, and all that stuff. And it's like, I felt like this guy knew I was coming, because at that time in my life, I didn't know the Lord. I was living.
I do need to interject this.
Okay.
Because they don't know this.
Tell them.
Is that before Mike met Pastor Steve, Mike was home visiting his family, and I had gone to this church and listened to this message, and knew that I was a sinner after this message that needed Jesus.
Yeah.
And I gave my heart to the Lord then. You hadn't been to the church yet. And I went up to Pastor Steve and said, we need somebody to marry us. And he said he'd love to marry us, but he wanted to meet with us.
But you got to know Ann, though. Ann's like so exuberant. She's like, oh, you got that. She's so excited. She like, when my wife expresses joy, she's very, boisterous. You could be a great salesperson. Anyway, so it's like, you got to go to this church. It's the greatest church. They're awesome. The great people are great. The church is fun. And I'm like, okay, yeah, going to church, that's cool. So anyway, I went to the church. We heard this message. It was a little condemning. I felt a little condemned. And so anyway, I came home, and it's like, Ann's, we're driving in the car. It's like, well, how'd you like it? And I said, I didn't. I felt like he was yelling at me. And it was really not him yelling at me, but it was just, I was getting convicted in my heart. And so anyway, he ended up calling. I don't know how he got your mom and dad's phone number, but he ended up calling. And so I went back later that day.
The Holy Spirit text message it to you.
Yeah, that's right. So I went back later that day, and I met with him. And so I thought, 20 minutes, we'll talk about the ceremony. Okay. And so anyway, I ended up spending 3 hours there. And he started telling me, he goes, Mike, listen, God loves you. He asked me if I was a Christian. I told him yes. Because I went to church when I was a kid. Okay. But I never understood about God's love in my heart. And that day, April 7th, 1981, was the day that I opened up the door of my heart, right here in Missoula, Montana, in a pastor's office on Higgins Boulevard, and gave my heart to Christ. And our life was turned upside down.
That began our Christian life together as husband and wife, and a baby on the way. But we were Christians. We were brand new Christians. We would ask silly questions, can I keep listening to AC/DC? Or, and pastor would say, well, I really believe that the Lord wants you to hear some edifying music, something that will fit. And we didn't understand.
There was a sanctification process.
Yes, there was.
But then not only that, but that in our own lives with the Lord, but also for the first 5 years, Ann and I didn't know each other.
Oh, boy.
And so you got to understand this. Ann and I'm a type A personality. Ann is a
You're
learned.
a type A?
You're a learned type A.
Oh, he's lying to you.
Anyway.
I'm the type A personality.
So
he's the learned behavior.
You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah, we had some wonderful fights.
Yes. And so what I'm saying, the first 5 years, we had to get to know each other. We had to learn. I went right to pro football. I went right to
Mike's
with
biggest
the
thing was
Seahawks
to just
and then
be gone.
the USFL.
You would kind of golf and not be there.
Yeah, and I was.
I don't want to deal with
I'm a much better grandfather than I was a father.
And I think everybody says that.
But I was young. Anyway, I was trying to go after my dream, and Ann was 100%
playing pro ball.
Behind my dream about playing pro football. And so, from the NFL to the USFL, then back to the NFL, then starting with the power team. And I felt a call ever since.
I have to say this about your football dream. I never knew if Mike could do it or not. It's not like I was ever out there watching him being Mr. really talented man who had a chance. But the thing that inspired me, what inspired me, Mike, was that it was in his heart so strong that he always wanted to play pro ball. And that was all I needed for it to become my dream, was that it was so in his heart. And the last thing I wanted was to be an anchor that stopped him from fulfilling that dream.
Thank you,
and for me, it was never a question of, well, he can't do this. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? It was more of a whatever it takes. If this is your dream, it's my dream. I want to see you make this. And I loved the fact that we were so blessed to be able to, both of us, strive for your dreams and not let anything get in that way.
Amen.
And you, because of that, and the Lord, obviously, he was able to go on and play professional football, fulfill those dreams.
But for a family, it's a hard life. You've gone 3 months out of the year training camp, and then when the season starts, it's just real stressful. But so we went, and then But we knew that, you know, during that time that there was a process that was taking place where God was doing something in our heart, that I knew that God had a bigger purpose in our life for Ann and I, and we got involved with a ministry. We got involved with a ministry called Sports World Ministries.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Where in the off season, playing pro football, we'd go out in the hills of Tennessee, and then we
New Tazewell,
Tennessee. Then we go out and do like all these school assemblies, and so that's when I kind of started.
Okay, well,
schools.
Mike was doing the school assemblies. I have to tell them this story. This is really important.
It could be a 45-minute podcast. I'm just
we'll break it down into two.
Okay, we got to do it one. It's all one.
Okay.
We got to edit, Johnny. Edit.
So anyway, while he's out doing the school assemblies, I'm up with our 3 kids at this point. And Lindsay, Lindsay, our youngest, is just like 2-3 weeks old, and then Joshua, he's still in diapers. He's 2 years old, and so we're living in the cabin while Mike's out doing your ministries. And I just have to say, the way that I entertained the kids, because we were in a cabin in Tennessee, and there was no telephone and there was no TV, and I brought a CD player I could play. At that time, it was, what was his name? The worship singer back then.
Don Francisco?
Don Francisco is who I listened to every day. Thank you, Don. You blessed me and got me through it. So I would take my kids out, and there was a bull in a field that was right out there, and I would grab one of your red sweatshirts, and I would put it on, and I'd set the kids and Lindsay in her little car seat on this picnic bench, and I'd say, don't move. And there was a wire, electric wire, that was separating this big old bad bull from me and the kids, and safety.
Okay.
So I would go in the field and run, and this bull would chase me through this field, and the kids would be screaming, "Go, mommy! Go, mommy!" Did you know this happened?
A disclaimer: women, if you ever get bored and there's nothing to do around the house, don't get a red.
No, you have to do whatever it takes. And I'm running for my life. I see the little electric
could be
fence.
hazardous to your health.
Listen, this is really important. I'm watching the electric fence, and I'm running for my life, and I jump over it, and I'm hoping the bull will stop at this little wire, and sure enough, he slams in, just dust everywhere, and he stops. I'm out of breath, and I'm leaned over, and the kids are yelling, "Do it again, Mommy, do it again."
So that's how it all started, from Sports World Ministry, and then starting with the Power Team, with John Jacobs and the Power Team for 14 years. And then, you know, now the last 9 years, we moved back to Missoula, Montana, which was a dream. We were in Dallas, Texas. No offense to anybody, but we love Missoula, Montana.
Love the people in Dallas, but there's no weather. I mean, there's no mountains.
But it's like we like the 4 seasons. We're from the Northwest, and so we love being back up here in Missoula. Yeah. And so, but God has been so faithful, and so, you know, I just say this to the people that are watching today. You know, Ann and I've got a great marriage, and we're working on. I mean, there's things in our life that we're working.
We're really tolerant.
But we are working. We're working on areas of our life that we want to be. We want to grow closer together. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people grow apart. Yeah. And people get into a rut. And I mean, you see it happening all the time.
Tell them, honey, what we do for romance and to make things not be in that rut.
Candlelight dinners, or we go out on a date.
And you cook those dinners.
Yeah.
It's important that they know that. I'm not the only one out there.
Now, for Valentine's Day tonight, and tonight's Valentine's Day, and tonight I'm going to prepare, I'm doing the whole meal, and I'm the chef.
This is important. So it's not just the meal. Mike,
lobsters.
He will rub my feet. You're really good about those little things that I care about. You know, dry feet. Honey, get me some lotion.
Say, "Aw."
And you'll rub my feet. No, you're really good about that. I
no,
love that.
I appreciate it. But here's
I'll give him a manicure.
Yeah, I need one. Now, there is something that I want to present to Ann. This is kind of like, I got other gifts for you.
Like roses and candy and clothes.
Yeah, but I thought this was something that I really work for. And really,
oh, okay.
This is a special gift.
Okay.
Okay, honey, it's Valentine's Day. This was a number 7 horseshoe.
Oh, that you bent?
And I bent it into a heart. I bent this into a heart for you.
I almost don't know what to say.
Now, where can you hang that? Somewhere? Can you? That's a special.
Oh, I have just the place.
Okay.
I do.
Anyway,
that's pretty amazing, though, that he bent this into a heart. Honey, I really love it. Thank you.
Okay, but this is what I want to. I really want to just close with this. I want to talk to people who are, you know, couples out there, and maybe things aren't going so well in your marriage. Maybe you're struggling through different circumstances, and might it be because of the economy, Number one reason why people fight today is because of finances.
And they probably don't like each other
Yeah.
right now either.
Or they're going through
Yeah.
struggles.
Yeah.
And the thing is that things will get better. In every situation, you look at situations that we've gone through in our life, and you've heard these in our podcast before, but when Anne went through, the problem with, when she had lupus, and then had the problem with addiction, with painkillers, and then went to Teen Challenge for 11 months, and then I came home off the road and watched the kids, but then we moved to Montana, then I had a heart attack, and then everything that I sowed into Anne's life, and I didn't leave her, and I never would there was never a doubt in my mind, well, my wife's a drug addict, she's a loser, she ain't gonna make it, and I never, that never crossed my mind. There was a covenant, there was a commitment that we said I do to each other.
That's right. That's
and
right.
everything and that I poured into her when I had my heart attack in '04.
Right.
And people don't realize when someone has something like that happen to them, that was a big thing. You helped me out so much. I mean, in the middle of the night, 3 in the morning, every morning, I think my heart's going to stop, I struggled. It took me a while to really get back to be able to do the strength team, and everything that I sowed into our relationship, you sown back into me.
Well, and the thing is some of you out there are thinking, well, that's different. You had a heart attack. You didn't cause that to happen. I can't stay with my loved one who caused something bad to happen. And drug addiction is something I did. Mike chose to stay with me. But the thing is God doesn't have any little closures in there, that disclosures in there where, like, this exempts you from the marriage because it was a bad choice they made.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Don't quit. I mean,
don't quit.
Don't quit. Don't give up.
Yeah.
And if there's...
It will get better. It's
things
not
will get
maybe,
better.
it will. And it might take years. It took years for us.
And sometimes you got to work through stuff.
Yeah.
You got to work through stuff. But
Yeah.
the biggest thing, though, about our marriage, and I see this just in your life and my life, is sometimes you just got to humble yourself.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who's right.
That's right.
It doesn't matter who's wrong.
Christ is right. His word is right.
It doesn't matter. But you know what? We can, and we've learned to agree to disagree.
We have totally learned to agree to disagree. As you can tell through this podcast.
Yeah.
There's a lot,
real
there
Mike
could
and
be a
Ann.
lot of headbutting all the time. But we're constantly, every day, trying to die to each other and put the other person first. There's so many things that annoy you about me, my
Right.
talking. And
No, I love to hear you talk.
well, okay,
Honey,
sometimes.
she's a good talker.
But the thing is he also sees that God's got to put a gift in my heart to share, to talk about everything God has done and how faithful He
Yeah.
is. And this is the thing. It's not about us as separate. These are my issues. Those are your issues. It's
Together.
us together. We are better together than we'll ever be apart, especially because of everything we've walked through in the last 20-some years. And the thing is that it's only going to get better. And I want to be in God's will, not my will, not your will. We both want God's will done.
Absolutely. And I want to share this in closing, is that one of the things when we do, when I perform weddings and people have gotten married and we've done the ceremonies and stuff like that, I always go through like a pre-marriage counseling. And we always talk about the pillars of trust.
Oh, yes.
The pillars of trust. You got to be, considerate. You have to be faithful. You got to talk about all. But the one pillar of trust that is so important is love.
Yeah.
The Bible talks about in 1 Corinthians 13. It says if we don't have love, we're like a sounding gong. I mean, we can do all these different great things, but without love, we've missed it all.
Yeah.
And there's 3 different types of loves, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but know that, our capacity as human beings, there's 3 different kinds of loves. There's an agape love. That's God's love for us. That's the love that we have back for God. That agape love can get us through storms.
Oh my.
Because Jesus lives in our heart.
Right.
And so we're able to display that agape love.
Right.
Then there's the phileo love, which is the friendship. There's a friendship love that people have, and then the eros love, which is more of a sexual love. And so, a lot of people on the phileo and the ero love, they have no problem, but sometimes with the agape love, where people hold things against each other, where they, love doesn't, remember
wrongs.
I
Doesn't
don't
keep a
I
record
don't
of
have
wrongs.
my Bible with the First
But
Corinthians
what you're saying
13.
is important. It doesn't keep a record of wrongs. That's
It
right.
always believes in the best.
That's right.
And so that's what love, if you can keep that one
Love
thing.
never fails.
Even if you lose your friendship in a marriage sometimes, even if things in the Eros side go
There's
wrong.
been times we have not liked each other.
That's true.
We're commanded to love one another, but there's been times we have not liked each other.
We're not up here like perfect, like
No.
little, Ozzy and Harriet up here. Oh, okay.
I'm sure you didn't like me during our drug addiction time.
No. But
Pretty
we're
positive.
saying that, listen, we're stronger today
That's right, that's
because of
right.
what we walked through.
Right.
And there's a commitment and there's a strength. And I just want to say this is that, hey, listen, it's Valentine's Day. Just think about, we can think about all the things that our spouse is doing wrong. But what about all the things they do right?
That's good.
What about the little things? And really what it comes down to is our heart. Honey, I love you with all my heart.
I love you with all my heart.
And happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
God bless you. And thank you for watching Women of Strength and Strength Team at the same time, the podcast. Thank you for being with us. And may God bless you.
God bless you.